Hey guys, I'm Molly Rennick from Living Dead Girl. We recently did our very first ever virtual concert. It wasn't really a concert, it was more of an intimate performance. So we recorded it right here in my own home, which made it very low-key, very casual, very intimate. We had a live audience that literally just consisted of my family. Just because we wanted to perform to an audience and not just to a camera, it made it feel more like an actual performance and made it feel more like we were engaging with real people and not just with the camera. So it actually went very well. We raised over $250 for our local animal shelter, which made me really happy to do. I've always loved animals and I love to help them however I can. So donating to my local animal shelter just gives me so much fulfillment and makes me feel amazing. I just wanted to do something that would feel like giving back this Christmas season, since it is the season of giving, and I'm really glad that we chose to do what we did. So it was a very just casual, stripped down performance. It was just myself and our guitarist John. So it was just two voices and one acoustic guitar. It's really hard for our music to translate to acoustic, so a lot of Living Dead Girl songs was just immediately off the table. Like, we would try to do the riff and like vocals and it just wouldn't sound right acoustic. Like, it needed the drums and it's pretty much all screaming, so there were just some songs that can't be done. So we just did 2 Living Dead Girl songs and then 3 Christmas songs. The meaning behind the band name, basically, by textbook definition, I was a stillborn when I came onto this earth. So my parents were telling me many years ago about how when I was born, I was not breathing and my skin was bluish gray. The doctor basically thought I was dead. I technically was dead for the first few minutes of my life. And I kind of came to the conclusion, I don't think I ever really did wake up. I think I've just been dead this entire time because I feel completely dead inside. So it's just kind of like been like this thing my whole life. Like, I came up with the band name when I was like 14. I was like, I'm living, but I'm a dead girl. So I came up with the band name Living Dead Girl because it sounds metal as fuck. Like, immediately when you hear it, you know it's a female fronted metal band. Like, you know what it is right off the bat. When you hear it, it's easy to remember, and because it's personal to me and I relate to it. So I wanted something that best described myself. A little bit about our single Alive. So this was the very first song that I wrote and recorded with our producer Mitchell Marlowe, who did our upcoming album. This is our very first album release. We've never released an EP or an album or anything before because we've actually in the past recorded several EPs worth of content and I don't like it and I throw it out and I want to restart because it took us a while to get the sound we wanted. So when I worked with Mitch, it like immediately clicked. He's worked with artists like In This Moment, New Year's Day, Butcher Babies, All That Remains, Starset, Papa Roach. He's worked with a lot of really amazing artists. So I just knew his sound and his work, his creativity was what I needed to help bring my visions to life. So Alive was the very first song I did with Mitch and one of my personal favorites, honestly. It really hits close to home. So that was the very first song we did, so it felt almost symbolic to release it as the first single off the upcoming album. It just felt right to make that the first single. To put it short, Alive is about embracing your life and being in control of it, about not doing things that you feel like are a waste of your time or a waste of your potential, but rather doing the things that you're passionate about and the things you care about and the things that you love doing. Because I'm the kind of person, I never did well in school. I fucking hated high school. I barely ever even showed up. It just made me so anxious. I always said, like, as young as like age 14 to like my parents and stuff, I always said like, I don't belong in a system, in a rigid, routine, structured, I don't belong in this. Like, I'm not that kind of person. I've always been a very free-spirited person that just does whatever they want to do. I'm very creative and very headstrong, so I've just always felt that way. And so by doing things that don't fulfill me, I feel like I'm wasting my life. And I know a lot of other creative people, a lot of artists, a lot of outcasts, and all of us are just like a group of people who don't belong in the structures of society. So it is talking about we are going to make our own world where we can all be the creative, free-spirited people that we are meant to be. We can live our full life. So it's really like a song about like unity and it's an anthem, like bringing us all together. The lyrics are like, we are gonna make our own world, we will find an escape, and when was the last time you felt alive? I'm asking the question to make the audience think about it. Like, when was the last time you did something that really fulfilled you, that really like made you feel alive? Like, why aren't you taking risks? Why aren't you living your full potential? Why aren't you traveling or creating or doing whatever it is that makes you you? Like, what is stopping you? So it's a very powerful song, I feel like. I'm just telling people, whatever makes you happy, just fucking go for it. Just do it. That's what Alive is about. The cover art. I actually created this cover art myself. I do graphic design. So the photography on it was done by Jeremy Saffer, who in the music industry is like a household name. Like, Jeremy's photography is known by everyone who's ever read a metal magazine. Like, you've definitely, at least once in your life, ripped out one of his pictures from a magazine and hung it on your wall, because because I know I sure as hell did when I was a teenager. His photography is exceptional. It's beautiful. So it's a picture that he took of me. I'm obviously naked and I'm doing like an epic hair flip, and just like the expression on my face, the fact that I'm naked, like, you know, the way you're born naked, and like all my hair is flying back, and like the expression on my face, I just felt like that picture plus the heart monitor that we overlaid on top of it, I was trying to think of like the word alive and what it makes me picture, and I just felt like symbolically that picture really represented it. So our upcoming album, Exorcism, is our very first release, as I said, and I couldn't be more excited about it. I know it sounds cliche to say that this song is my baby, but this album literally is my child. I put 3 years worth of writing, recording, restarting, thinking, okay, this isn't good enough. I need to do better. I need to work with a different producer. I need to push myself harder. I need to work on this. I need to do more of this to create this album. Like, there has been literal blood, sweat, tears, lots of hard work, lots of money, lots of time traveling. Everything I've had in this life I've put into this album. So when you listen to this album, like, that is my life right there, is this album. It is coming out next summer, unless it is delayed again. Hopefully with the current situation the world is in, we are able to properly release it despite everything happening, but we are hoping to release it next summer. That is the plan. This album is called Exorcism because there is a song called Exorcism that I wrote a few years ago. I modified it and re-recorded it with a few different producers, and I was trying to nail it. Finally got exactly what I wanted when I recorded it with Mitchell Marlowe, and I felt like that song deserved to be the title track. The whole album should be named after that one song, because the concept and the lyrics in this song just represent who I am as an artist and the message I'm trying to convey. Like, I just think it's such an awesome concept that I named the entire album after it. So my cooperation with Buried Alive Records, secrets out, I am Buried Alive Records. We are an independent band, but when I was trying to work on distribution for the first single, I was finding everything asks for like a label name, and you need to, when I'm filling out the forms and stuff, everything was asking for a label name. So I came up with my own absolutely tiny independent label, and we called it Buried Alive Records because Living Dead Girl had a song out there just like on YouTube like 3 years ago called Bury Me Alive, and that song is not present on our upcoming album. So it's kind of just like a forgotten about song. It's just like, I could say that song's been buried. I've just now said that word like 10 times. That song's like been buried basically. So I decided it's kind of like symbolic to name the record label after the one song that just like doesn't exist anymore. So I made my own little record label and called it Buried Alive Records. Do I think it's important to have a label deal? No, I don't. In this day and age, no, I don't. We were trying to shop to labels. We were attempting to do it, but just with the whole situation of the world right now, it's not the climate really to be signing artists, because without touring and everything, like, nothing is usual right now, right? Like, nothing is going the way it always has before. This year is just completely fucked. So it's not the year to be trying to get a record deal. I learned that. We had labels who were interested. We had many people we were discussing things with, and we talked to a lot of people and did a lot of work behind the scenes, and there were people who were interested, there were people who loved our music and would love to work with us, and unfortunately, like, this year just wasn't the right time. So I did a lot of research. I talked to a lot of music industry friends that I have, people who are already successful full-time musicians touring the world who I'm friends with, and I asked their advice, and I spoke to a lot of different people, and they told me, honestly, in this day and age, like, with the power of technology and social media, like, if you know how to get your music out there, like, you can do as much work as a label can. So I did a lot of research into it, I did a lot of work, and I figured out how to do it myself, and that's the route we're taking for now, at least. My music is a mix of goth, rock, metal, industrial, pop, and punk rock, but what is my favorite genre? It is almost impossible for me to answer this question, honestly, because it completely depends on my mood. There are some days where I'm listening to, like, really heavy, like, just screaming kind of metal, and I'm like, this is my favorite music. And then there's like an hour later, I'll be listening to Avril Lavigne singing soft, pretty ballads with her beautiful voice, and I'm like, no, this is my favorite kind of music. And then, like, later on, I'll be listening to, like, Marilyn Manson's Mechanical Animals, which is kind of like a very unique blend of rock and roll that still has, like, an industrial vibe to it, and I'm like, no, this is my favorite kind of music. Like, I honestly can't pick. I appreciate so many different types of subgenres and different types of metal and rock that it completely depends on where my headspace is at. Some days I literally just want to belt along to some super poppy Avril Lavigne music, and I love it, and I feel so happy listening to it. And then there's other times where, like, I find joy in just, like, heavy, morbid, depressing music. completely depends. And since I'm unable to choose one, that's why I blended them all together to create Living Dead Girl. In a non-egotistical way, I would say Living Dead Girl is my favorite music of all time. Like, listening to my own music is my favorite music because I took inspiration from really, really heavy music as well as poppy, punk pop music. I combined the two worlds because I decided I can't pick. And then I realized I don't have to pick. Like, I can take elements from here and inspiration from there and bits of this, and I'm gonna combine them all. And so I feel like I really conveyed my personality in the style of music that we decided to do. Now, we had to postpone many shows due to COVID-19. We didn't have many shows booked for this year. More so, we were planning originally on releasing the album Exorcism in October, and we ended up holding off on that because we weren't really sure what we were doing yet. At that time, we were still shopping to labels, and we knew we couldn't tour or have a release party or play shows or anything, so we were like, let's just hold off. And then it started seeming more and more like, okay, this isn't going away anytime soon. This isn't a 2-week lockdown. This has literally been a year of our lives at this point. I don't think we're gonna be seeing normal life anytime soon. So I was like, I don't want to hold on to this album and sit on this album and keep it to myself for, I'm not trying to sound all doom and gloom, but like I didn't want to potentially have to wait on it for like a few years, because I was like, I can't wait until we're playing shows again to release an album, because that might be a long time. People are depressed right now. People are struggling, and people want music to listen to. I was like, I want to be able to give that to them. And also, keeping my music to myself just feels sort of selfish. Like, you create it to put it out there and to let people enjoy it. So I didn't want to just have an album that I haven't released and just sit on it for a few years. It just feels like a waste to me, like, to not be able to share it. So then finally I just kind of like, we went back to the drawing board. We were like, okay, we made out like a map with like a time zone, like, okay, we'll release a single here, release the album then, like, this is how we're gonna do it. So we didn't have many shows planned for this year, more so the release of the album, and which would of course have an album release party and show and everything, but we hadn't even gotten into the planning and tour stage. We were really just focusing on getting the album out. So a lot of things did definitely change due to COVID and were affected by it, but we luckily hadn't had an entire tour or anything booked yet. So thankfully there wasn't too much for us to cancel. Have I had any epic fails during live performances? I have. There was a show we played last Halloween where I always sing with a wireless microphone. At the time we were just kind of playing shows here and there, so I would usually just rent a wireless microphone from a music store because, you know, like artists, we're not known for being rich. I couldn't afford a wireless microphone after how much I was spending on producing an album and everything. So I'd always just rent one for our gigs we had every now and then rather than buy one. Whereas this year I finally bought one. But so I had just picked up from the rental place. They told me there were brand new batteries in the microphone. All was good. We did our sound check and it worked perfectly. Everything was fine. And then the second I went out on stage and I started singing, there was no sound. The microphone was completely dead. So then, like, the first line of the song, I'm trying not to panic. I didn't want the audience to see it, but like, obviously, like, I'm sitting there singing, my mouth is moving, no sounds coming out through the speakers, and like, it's like the audience is like kind of confused. But luckily, the way I handled it didn't completely give it away that something was going on, or going wrong rather. I just kind of went with the flow, and I just quickly grabbed the microphone off the stand right beside me that John sings backup vocals into. So I grabbed that one and started singing. But I think when I grabbed it and pulled it, the like cord fell out of it, which is why I never performed with a corded microphone. I insist on wireless for this exact reason. The cord fell out and then I was like stepping on it in like my huge platform heeled boots. I'm like stepping and rolling on this like little round end of the wire. And then so I started singing into that one and no sounds coming out. So at that point I'm holding two mics in one hand. I reach over and grab Jordan's microphone, our bassist, and I grab and I start singing, and that one like wasn't turned on or something. And then luckily there was like another one somewhere. So at one point there's like pictures of me from that performance where I have like 3 microphones in one hand and I'm like singing into another, and I was just like holding all these microphones. So the entire first song of the set was just me panicking, grabbing different microphones, but like trying not to look like I'm panicking. I'm only panicking on the inside, grabbing all these microphones until I finally found one that worked, and then I just like put the others on the floor, and then after the song I was like, all right, this one works, we're good. That was an epic fail. Any new music that has impressed me? This is hard to answer because I don't want to sound like I don't listen to music anymore or anything, but honestly, since I haven't been going anywhere, where I always listen to music, I'm not a huge fan of Spotify personally. I normally hear new music on the radio. I listen to a lot of Sirius XM Octane. That's where I normally discover new music, and since I haven't really been going anywhere this year, I've just been working from home and not doing anything. I don't listen to the radio much because I'm not in the car, so usually I'm just like at home where I typically just listen to my regular generic stuff. So I've been discovering a lot less new music this year than in past years, but I will say In This Moment's new album I completely am in love with. I've heard on the radio a few times their new single As Above So Below, which Jeremy actually shot the amazing music video for, and I'm really digging In This Moment's new music. I feel like the COVID-19 pandemic has destroyed the music industry. Honestly, it's gonna be really tough for everyone to recover from this. I've always been so grateful for the work that the crew people do, both as the performer and as a spectator at concerts. The people who set up the lights and they move the gear around and they set up the screens and everything, like all the work that they do is what brings us live music and what makes it happen. And since we haven't had live music, these people have been out of work for almost a year now. So I just really feel heartbroken for them, trying to provide for their families, trying to pay their bills and make ends meet, and they're unable to work. I feel really, really heartbroken for all the people that this has affected financially and their mental health and their well-being. I'm just completely devastated for them. My local music scene, I don't really know what to say about it. We have bands and stuff here. It's kind of difficult where we live, like get shows and stuff here, since so many of the venues have gone under. Like there's not that many venues left. There's like one that tries to charge you $500 to play, which I refuse to pay and never will. Then there's like one that is good and we can play at, so we have played at multiple times and we get a great turnout every time we play there. And then there's like bigger venues that are more like hockey arenas that we're not quite ready to play just yet. We haven't gotten the name out there enough to do that quite yet. So it's just kind of like tough. It's like when you want to play a local show, there's really like only like the one option, which I'm grateful for. A lot of bands like 3 Days Grace, Protest the Hero, Billy Talent, Anti-Flag, a lot of bands have played this venue and we've played there about, I want to say like 5 times now. It's just that there's not like much of like a bustling scene. Like it's not like we have like a ton of venues and there's like always shows going on. Like it's not the way it used to be. Like it definitely feels like there's less and less rock and roll around here. Spotify or CDs and vinyl, 100% CDs and vinyl. I honestly don't really like supporting companies like Spotify because I know the artists aren't being fairly compensated on them. It is important for exposure nowadays to use platforms such as Spotify and whatnot just to get your name out there, but the artist gets more compensation for their hard work when you buy a CD than when you listen to Spotify. So every album I like, I own on CD. I own a physical copy. The ones I really like, I own 2 to 3 copies of. I have them in my car, so I have them at home. I have them like one in my kitchen, one in each car. I always have a ton of CDs. Like I have a huge CD collection. And I like to physically hold it. Like the artists put so much work into creating their album. They do the photo shoot and they try to get their vision of what represents the album and they create it, and through the lyric booklet with the photography and everything, like holding a physical copy of an album is amazing. Like you can see all of their hard work and their creativity in the physical copy of it. And I've always, like the day like Avril Lavigne or Marilyn Manson, anyone that I listen to releases a new album, I've always gone to the store and bought a copy like that day. And then now Marilyn Manson's latest album, We Are Chaos, came out this year and I like couldn't find physical CDs anywhere. Like I had to go to some third-party seller on Amazon to find one because I went to several different stores in the mall, including record stores, and I could not find a copy of it anywhere. And I was like, this is actually like heartbreaking. Like I've always loved having physical copies of albums, and it's just more and more becoming like not a thing anymore. I know vinyls have made a huge comeback, which is good to know, but I'm not up on the times. I don't really like digitally streaming music. I love having CDs. The future plans for Living Dead Girl include releasing our album. We have a lot of music video ideas for several of the songs on the album that we would love to film, but unfortunately due to the restrictions in place at the moment, like Toronto is completely locked down, so it is physically impossible to make these music videos come to life. So we are going to be releasing these songs just with like different visualizers or lyric videos and on all streaming platforms, of course, and we will proceed with the album release, but hopefully we are able to release music videos for these songs as well, because I would love to bring them to life visually, and even if that means releasing the music videos after the album's already out, whatever we have to do with whatever protocols are in place at that point, it's hard to know because it changes literally every single day. So we are just trying to do the best we can in bringing the album to life while not breaking the rules or any laws. So there will be music videos, there will be an album, and hopefully sooner than later there will be a tour. We've never done a full tour before and we are just dying to play in the States. We have so many followers and supporters and fans in the States. We sell a lot of merch where we have to ship it to the States. A lot of our online listeners are in the States. Like there's such an incredible music scene down there for metal and rock specifically that we would just love to go play the festivals and be a part of it, and we've been dying to do so. So hopefully that is happening sooner rather than later. There will also be an expansion of Living Dead Girl merchandise. Like I said earlier, I do graphic design and I really love just creating things however I can, and I've always been really into fashion and designing clothing and stuff. So we will be expanding the Living Dead Girl brand and making more merchandise and lifestyle items. So the Living Dead Girl online store will be growing a lot in the new year, so keep an eye on that because it's not going to be your average band merch. We're going to have some really cool stuff that we're coming out with. Alright, I'd like to thank Antichrist magazine for having me today, and thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you are all doing as well as you can right now despite the current situation of the world. I hope you guys are staying strong and getting through it. Thanks for watching, guys.